Greetings to you all, and of course, welcome to this broadcast. I think that it's necessary, or I find it necessary to speak to those of you who are fellow contractors who have got, especially here in Linden, other parts of Guyana as well, but mainly for those in Linden who, or to whom I'm committed to offering whatever I can in reference to knowledge, understanding, and probably wisdom. As you tune into the broadcast, please indicate to me whether you hear me clearly and you see me clearly. My day has already started, but I took some time out of it to pause and to have a moment here with you. This broadcast is more informational, educational, informative, and anything as you want to describe it as. It is not one that is geared towards chiding anyone or whipping anyone, I should say, with words. But it's just to show you that it's necessary for persons who are venturing into this field or who were coerced by a political motive to say we give 200 people, 300 people, whatever it is, whatever the number is, we give them roads to build. I said it from the beginning, from the very first day I heard of this, and I will say it to you again. It is very, very unfortunate that Linden has been selected to suffer or to endure this pain. Can you hear me clearly? I can see that there's some issue with the internet connection, but we'll get through it the best that we can. As I said, you can always, especially for those of you who are in the field of, or you are attracted to, or you call to somebody, call you, say, listen, you can get a contract to build a road of all things, and you jumped on it. And now you're having thoughts as to whether you're having, of course, the most expensive part of building a concrete road would be the concrete. That can account for 40, 50%, if you're not careful, of the total cost of the project. 30%, 40%, it can be very, very expensive, and it can run up on you pretty quickly. All right? So tell me if you hear me clearly, please. I can see that there's some issue with Facebook here, so let's see what happens. Let's talk something that's educational and informative. And this is not my job. Somebody else is supposed to be doing this. And if you're a contractor, as many people are called, a contractor is not just somebody who just builds something. There's much more involved to being a contract, or executing, or having the responsibility of having oversight of a contract in reference to building construction. When it comes to road work, it is an extremely expensive venture, and that is why the state normally takes on that role, not the PPP, the state, the people. So if it's APNO FC, if it's TCI, or whatever they call it, the People's Movement, whatever you are, if you are in authority to govern the nation along with the people of the nation, your role is administrative. So your role in what is called the government, which is really the administration, is to ensure that you're able to manage the finances of the state, of the people of Guyana well. And that's what brings me here. So there've been many conversations, and I can hear it because I'm around the place. And persons are troubled because, as I said, some eye tech, nail tech, nose tech, teeth tech, whatever you are, hairdresser, whatever you just, anybody, I'm sorry, can just grab a contract, sign up and say, okay, I'm a contractor, I have a contract. And then they give, hit us off, I'll call him back. So they give someone this contract to execute. The person has no knowledge, so that individual will then go pay somebody else. That's an arrangement they'll make. Don't be mad at me, I'm just saying the truth. There's nothing wrong with that. That can be called subcontracting, which is not the true meaning of the word. Because the contractor who subcontracts must also have knowledge of what he's doing, or what the contract entails. There are people who are totally ignorant, and they got involved in this. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you briefly what the profile of a road would look like and where the issue comes in with this concrete being poured. So the major company involved in pouring concrete in Linden is Chetram Brothers, Caribbean Concrete. As you saw, I did a video with them before. Most of the roads, those works in reference to the final pouring of the concrete would have gone to Chetram. Now, there's an important arrangement being made with contractors whereby the Ministry of Public Works, and it makes sense, instead of giving the contractor 4 million, 5 million, depends on the length of the road and the thickness, they would say, okay, then what we're going to do is Chetram, that company, Caribbean Chemicals, would, I keep saying chemicals, Caribbean Concrete, would be paid directly by the Ministry of Public Works. That makes sense. So whatever it is, you have to police now. You have to be on the ball to know how much concrete you're using as a contractor, how much was used on the road, and then that total would be agreed upon. You sign off with the engineer and everybody else, and then you head to that company would be paid. Makes sense. But here's where the problem comes. The problem comes in that the company would give a projected cost based on what is submitted to them. So for example, if a road is 250 feet long or 75 meters long, which is just short of 250 feet, 18 feet wide and 6 inches deep, then the Caribbean Concrete Company would do a calculation for cubic meters, cubic yards. Let's say it's pretty close, and I'll show you how to calculate it. So let's say they're charging $45,000 per cubic yard or cubic meter of concrete. This is important. Remember that calculation, the projected sum they give in that letter for you to have to say, okay, can you pay to Caribbean Concrete or to Forest or whatever it is, this sum. You did that before the road was finished or before the final pouring was done on the road. Therefore, when the actual work is being done now and they begin to pour the concrete out of the trucks, then at the end of that process, you would know exactly how much concrete was used. So what you're given by Caribbean Concrete is a projection. What you're given by Foresters would be a projection. It is not the actual cost. They do not consider whether some sections of a road would be 8 inches because of, and I show you what happens when people give other people work to do, or when the blinding is damaged, what will happen to you. If somebody who doesn't know anything but, oh my God, somebody please tell, okay. If somebody has this work and they don't know anything, they got the contract, they signed, I'm a contractor, and they give somebody else the work to do because and they're totally ignorant. The people can go and do this blinding work, and of course, if proper supervision is not had, some section of this blinding work can be 7 inches deep, 8 inches, because they did a very thin blinding to try to, or some years contractors now want to cut corners and say, okay, then I would not spend a lot of money to buy cement to do this blinding work, which a blinding is a layer of concrete, in this case, that is basically, the purpose of a blinding is not for structural support. It is simply for you to have a clean area to work in. So for example, if you're working in a muddy area, you put a blinding of concrete, and that blinding is really for you to have a dry, clean surface to work on. I don't know where some people arrive at the notion that a blinding is for support. 2 inches, 50 millimeters, or 5 centimeters, or 2 inches of concrete is what you call a capping in a basic house to do a tile or tiling. You cannot think that that is for structural support. That is why you have to do compaction of the sand, of the substructure, the material below. You have to have a compaction test. You should have had one done. And then they know the density, how close the soil or whatever it is under there is compacted, how the particles are to each other. And then they can say, okay, then it's compacted enough to bear the weight of this concrete. The blinding is not for structural support. So I'll show you something in reference to why people think they're being robbed. And this is very interesting, because I know that those who sell the concrete will have the worst names in the world because many people do not take time to teach you what they should. And it's just unfortunate people are having contracts and being ignorant. But I'll show you. Now just tell me if you can see this clearly, please. All right. Can you see this clearly? I don't know, but I was depending on your feedback today, but I don't know what's going to happen, right? So I have a pen here to point to what's happening. Oh boy. Good. The audio is bad, huh? Because somebody keeps calling me. Just tell me when it gets better. Let me see if I switch what is going to happen. Is it good? Audio is fine now? Video is fine? Great. Thank you, Wayne. All right. So this is what would be called the profile of a road. All right. Okay. So you see here, we have 6 inches. That's the side of the road. That's called a verge. Some people call it a toe, right? So that's your form board at the side here. This would be a 6-inch. It should be a toe at the side, or it's called a verge. The edge of the road is called the verge of the road. From one form board all the way to the other form board would be 18 feet. That's what you're seeing there. Good? See that? 18 feet. This red here would be the blinding. So from the blinding to the top of the road should be 6 inches thick. From the blinding, which would be this red stuff here, that would be a concrete. The top of this road is supposed to be 6 inches thick. Now, as I was saying to you, if somebody decides that they want to do the cheap way and you give somebody else the work to do and the person wants to cheat or rob you, they do not do the solid 2-inch blinding. So what they can do sometimes, and if they pay the money, whatever they do, you have a blinding that in some cases may be 1 inch thick. So across your road, you can now have 7 inches instead of 6 inches. And that's where the engineers are supposed to come and do a level test or examination where they pull the string across the road here, pull the string straight across, and they check to ensure that there's uniformity in reference to the blinding. But that is not always the case, and it may not always be the case because we live in Guyana. So when the concrete truck comes now, so bear this in mind, right? When they give you a calculation from the concrete company, they give a calculation to say, and please share this broadcast with others, they need to know this. When the Caribbean Concrete or any other company would have sent to the Ministry of Public Works the figure for you, let's say 4.1 million, in my case, it was 4.1 million for the length of the road I had to do, that I'm doing. What they cater for is this 6-inch here straight across the 18 feet width. They do not cater for this, what is called a toe, other side of this road. And I'm showing calculations why some of you complain that you're being robbed. Now you have 2 issues to deal with. One, the blinding may not be standard 2 feet 2 inches thick straight down the length of the road and the width of the road. Then you may also have a situation where this toe here has not been would have not been factored into the total cost for your work. Pay attention to what's happening here now. I'm going to calculate and show you how simply 6 inches of concrete in your mind is not really 6 inches of concrete. So you're not being robbed. What's happening is you may have an issue regarding structural deficiencies or in some cases inconsistency. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk. So you're a contractor, you got a contract to build this road. You pay somebody else because you don't know what to do. They did not tell you the truth. They just decided, okay, then, well, they get paid $1 million, $2 million, whatever they charge to build this road, to do the work for you. So they don't care how much you pay for concrete. It doesn't matter because that's where you have the profit would come in and so on at the end, depending on how much you save and these things. They don't care about that. In their mind, they're paid to do your road. Now, when the road is being cast at the end of this, the final phase now, it's the casting, the final pouring, they say, well, Chetram or Forrester, somebody robbed us because it's supposed to be 8 trucks and you now have 8.5 or 9. I'll show you something. So Chetram told us in the video we did when I went to the Caribbean concrete facility, the batching plant. He told you that they normally would send 9.5, I think it is, cubic meters of concrete. Let's say yards or cubic meters, okay? Per truck. That's the standard. Here's one of the things I'd like to advocate for before I move on to the other phase. They should have been by the Ministry of Public Works or whoever it is, someone at the batching plant who, for the sake of the contractors who don't know anything in many cases, someone who is another eye. So, and I'll talk about both sides and others in another broadcast. ExxonMobil, same thing. You should never have the company who's selling the product policing themselves. It doesn't make any sense in reference to trust factors being involved. So if I think Chetram is open to this, so Chetram could employ someone there, a neutral person, or whoever has to do it. Say you stand at this batching plant. Whenever a truck comes on this belt to receive the, it is called cross-referencing. There's a glitch. I don't know how to networks. I guess the budget maybe. I don't know, but anyway, right. So there should be some independent. Good. There should be some independent auditing done. Independent checking. Now you say, oh, somebody said, well, Roberts, listen to me. At the end of the day, you still have another eye watching over your business. If you can't afford to send someone to the batching plant to watch over your interest as a contractor, then it is only sensible to at least give it a shot. Because it's figures we're dealing with. Or you can intermittently dash it to the plant yourself and check to see if the person who's being paid to police this thing is doing what they should. It's up to you. At the end of the day, there must be some sense of trust involved in doing business. When you enter business and you don't trust people, it's not a good thing to do. But what is happening to many of you, because you are unaware of the technical aspects of this contract, in terms of building these concrete roads, you think that you're being robbed. And I'll show you that you're not. But what's happening is you may have been robbed by somebody else. So let me show you a calculation. I'll pull up my calculator and show you. I'll show you something. And this, to some of you who, even if you're building your house, believe me, you need to know certain basic things. Okay? So let me show you, if you're building a house, or in this case, you're casting, the road is being poured. There's a calculation that you have to do to determine, and Chetram and those who do it, Forrester will do it, to determine how much concrete do you need. I'll show you. So take a look at this screen here now. I hope this is helping some of you here. So there's the calculator on the screen, right? So the road is 18 feet wide. So to calculate how much concrete you need in feet, and then we convert to cubic yards. The road is 18 feet wide. Let's say your road now happens to be 250 feet long. A 75-meter road. So it's 250. Good? You then have to multiply that again by how thick the road is. So the road is supposed to be at a standard. Remember, every part of this road is supposed to be half of a foot or 6 inches. So that's 0.5 of a foot, right? Together we will have now 2,250 feet. But we want to convert that to cubic yards, which would be how much would come in the truck, or how much you need to finish this entire road. To do that, you divide this by 27. Look at this. Look at this figure. You see that? So you would need in feet. Divide that by 27. And this tells you how much concrete you're going to need in terms of cubic yards. So if Chetram is sending, I know Caribbean Concrete, they're sending 9. Tell me if you're seeing clearly. This is just ridiculous this morning with e-networks. It is ridiculous. Y'all service is just a trash in Linden. All right. So if Chetram is sending 9.5, or they're loading 9.5 cubic yards or meters, I should say. Let's just interchange them for now. into each truck. We'll divide this how many truckloads you're supposed to come to your site. Good? So divide this by 9.5, which is 9.5. Let's see how many truckloads you're going to need. Look at that. So 8.7, let's say 9 trucks are supposed to show up to your site, and that will finish your road. If your road was 75 meters long, or 250 feet long, 18 feet wide, and half a foot deep. But we have a problem. Facebook is doing the worst today. Well, e-networks, I should say. But listen to me. There's a big challenge here. And so you will say, you had to pay extra money. You feel as if you were robbed. No, you were not robbed. Let me show you something. For one, remember I told you, let me go back to the drawing. Let's go back to the diagram. Remember the profile of the road? Let's go back to the profile of the road. Remember this profile here? This is the ideal. This is where everything is perfect. Your blinding is 2 inches thick. Your form board at the sides of the road, the form of the side of the road here, is level. The other side level. Everything is perfect. And even then, the calculation that was made does not reflect what is this 6-inch verge, 6 by 6. They're supposed to put the side of the road. What they call the toe. I don't know what's happened to Facebook today. It's not me. To e-networks, it's not my fault. So I'm going to calculate now for this area here, and I'll show you something. Good? Now bear in mind, remember that, is this still clear? Because it keeps, the connection keeps dropping on my end for some stupid reason. Let's get back to our calculator. Can you see? 8.77. So 9 truck loads are supposed to come to you. Remember that. Good? Or you had 83.33 cubic yards altogether was supposed to finish the road. Let me show you something that many of you were not told or are not being told. So let's clear this. We're now going to calculate and check to see what happens for this 6-inch by 6-inch toe. How much concrete do you need to use? Because some of you may, if you don't have the knowledge, say that's just a little thing, and look how much concrete I have to use. I'll show you. So remember, 6 inches will be half of a foot, and the 6 inches by 6 inches has another half of a foot, and the whole length of your road is 250 feet. Remember that? By 250 feet. That's just one side we're calculating for here now. So it's half of a foot by half of a foot. That's the verge. That's what they call the toe of the side of the road. By 250 feet, which is the length of your road. Let me show you something. If you do that, it will be equal to 62. See that? Now, to get the total amount of concrete you'll need in cubic yards, this is what you have to do. You divide again by 27. Good? So that's just for the side of the road now. This little gutter, you see, the little verge, what they call the toe, whatever it is. Look at this. And that's if it was consistent. Some of those lazy workers who don't want to do the right thing and they think they want to cheat you, say, man, we don't have to do that. Don't worry about that. Just drop it down. You may have some section being 8 inches wide. Some will be 6 inches wide. Some will be 5. Some will be 7. So it's not consistent. I'm talking about what is consistent here. If we do that, look at this. You now require 2. This is unbelievable. I cannot believe the internet is so ridiculous today. All right. So, for the two sides, this little 6-inch, the little 6-inch verge at the side of the road, what they call the toe of the side of the road, that little thing. Let me pull it up and show you what it looks like. This. Right here. Just a little thing running down the side of the road can run you into, take a look, 4, that's half of a truck. half of a truck. Now remember that I said it's being sold at $45,000 per cubic yard. Remember that? So let's do the calculation then. So you multiply this by 45,000. How much money would you be charged? $208,000 more. You have not been robbed. You've not been robbed. So you're now paying for 87, 83 plus 4 is 87 plus 6 is 7.6 plus 3. So 88 cubic yards of concrete. When you thought it would have been 83.3, but it's not. Now, if your blinding has a problem, now let's say blinding has an issue. That's clear. They say blinding has a problem now. So somebody said they're going, and 100 feet of your road is not consistent in terms of 6 inches thick. So it's 100 feet. Let's see what if it's just 1 inch variation. Just 1 inch is wrong. So it'll be 1. Look at this, 1 divided by 12. So let's see how much of a foot that'll be. 0.083 of a foot. Just 1 inch of blinding is out by, let's say, when you add it all up, 100 feet of blinding is off. In reference to the thickness it should have been. Good? Because somebody said they're going to cut corners and give you some thin blinding and get away with the money. Look at this. Or somebody encourage you, man, you have to do any thick blinding, man, we just cast at the top. So you see that? No. So you multiply that by 18, that's the width of the road. And for 100 feet, you have this problem altogether, and you add it all up. So you multiply that by 100. Equals 150. Now we have to divide by 27 to see how much more cubic yard of concrete you're going to need. Take a look at that. With just 100 feet of your road, out of a 250 foot length of road, less than half of the road, have a problem in terms of the height of the blinding, you're paying for 5.5 cubic yards of concrete more. How much does that cost? You have to multiply that by 45,000. $250,000 more. I know that the internet is ridiculous today, but do you all understand, or do you get a picture about how or why paying careful attention to detail in terms of the roadworks and people with knowledge should be the ones dealing with these roads? Do you understand why? Because you can look at the concrete company and say they're robbing me because you don't know how to calculate. Even those who you call contractors and who are working with you don't know how to calculate cubic meters or cubic yards of concrete. They don't know how to calculate quantities. Remember that in your hand you do not have anything called a bill of quantities either. So you don't know how much you need for anything. Additionally, you are of the view that the people at the concrete plant are robbing because when they send one truck, it covers, let's say, 28 feet. When they send another truck, it covered 27 feet or 26 feet. So you see, this other truck came and I was robbed. No, you were not robbed. You were not robbed. What happened is you could have a fault in reference to the, now mind you, the trucks are reversing or into your lot. So the blinding would be sinking, possibly. You would create depressions, or the blinding was bad in the first place, in terms of the depth it should have been, or the thickness should have been, in relation to the height of the final pour. So you have to now deal with paying extra for the total sum of concrete. You're not being robbed. But the notion will be that in one area, 29 feet would have been covered, and another one is 27 feet. So they robbed me 2 feet of concrete, 2 feet by 18 feet, by 6 inches. No. That is why it's important for someone to be at the batching plant, not Chetram's employee, not Forrester's employee. Someone should be at the batching plant, checking to see. Gary Greenwich, it's 4,500 psi, 4,500. Someone should be at that plant, paid to check every truck that's leaving, check the meter, the gauge, display. Okay, so we've sent this truck with 9.5 cubic meters of concrete. The other truck came, this one went with 9.5. So whenever the truck drives off from there, you know that the truck is leaving with 9.5, unless it stops somewhere and pour out some concrete, which is not going to happen. When the truck gets to your site now, the truck begins to offload. You're not thinking. When the truck is reversing in, if the blinding sinks or there's an issue, and you say, well, I'm not going to stop this pouring today to fix any blinding. Pour it. If you have a 30 or 40 or 50 feet section, as I just showed you, 50 feet by 18 feet, it will cost you $125,000 more. Just like that. Just like that. So I came today to advocate for two things. One, you're being knowledgeable as a contractor of what is happening with your road work. And it's not my job, but it's my responsibility given the fact that I know what you're dealing with. And secondly, for there to be someone who is paid, or two people, there's one, I know Caribbean Concrete has one batching plant in Wisma, one in Mackenzie. Two individuals should be on either side, and they should, for this process, be paid to ensure, at least I would have done that. I would recommend that, and I do not think that Chetram or anyone with sense would have a problem with that. They would pay. Let's find two people who need a job, or maybe four. And you are there to ensure that that's how you're doing. Whatever number is on the screen as the total sum, they have the checklist, the 3 sheets, one for the engineer, one for the contractor, one for the company, one for public works. All of that is in order. Whatever figure they have there, you must have the same thing in your ledger. In your ledger. So nobody should be able to say that they're being robbed. And I know that in maybe every instant you are not being robbed. What has happened is you do not know to do the calculations, and you've not considered other factors involved. For one, trucks should not be driving on the blinding of a road. That's not the purpose of blinding. There should be a line pump that pumps the concrete, as you see people do. Or the truck should get to a section whereby they can be at the side of the road and pump. Of course, where the roads are, you can't do that. But in any case, when the trucks are reversing or driving on the blinding will automatically sink. There'll be depressions, and you'll have to pay more for that concrete. That's inevitable. The other factor is that the calculation may not have been done for the verge, which is the side of the road. So what would likely happen is the companies may say, okay, then we're going to calculate for an extra 10 or 5 or 6 cubic yards. If you don't use it, then you have that refund coming back to you. Okay? So there's a lot involved, and I just took these moments here to talk to you because I don't like when people speak without knowledge. And it's not a good thing to just buy into a game of people talking recklessly. Okay? So I have come to do my part, to be of assistance to you as I always would, and to advocate for there to be checkers, people who will be at the plants checking. And this should be done by the Ministry of Public Works as well. Independent checkers. I mean, money, the budget you're talking about has so much money. Yeah, throw the money around, let people be employed. You need to do the right thing by people. The engineers could tell them, the clerks of work could tell them, when the truck's reversing a blinding will sink, hence you'll have to pay for more concrete. Be honest. And if the road is 250, 280, 300 feet long, because some people have 90-something meters of road to do, you think about if that sinks with the two truck wheels sinking it. 2 at the back, maybe 8 at the back, 2 in front, reversing there 10, 15, 20, 30 times. In and out, 15 times in, 15 times out. when the blinding sinks, that depression that you have to deal with would be sometimes 2 feet on each side because of how wide the truck wheels are. You have to pay for that. That is your reality that you've not been. Do not say that anybody's robbing you. I don't know how agile, how anyone, permanent secretary or anybody, could sit back and honestly say it's acceptable for there to be concrete being poured on the road without line pumps. I honestly don't. I cannot, to this day, I would not fathom that, and that's another story altogether. But you should not blame the concrete company, the ready-mix company, for your having to pay more. This is just because you don't have the knowledge. I came today to offer for free knowledge to you. That's it. In reference to your BRC, I see people there laying BRC, the British reinforced concrete, that has the mesh, it looks like big thick wire mesh. Okay. They're laying that all straight to the road. Then the truck will reverse on that. What do you think will happen? The BRC is not made to carry the weight of a 20-ton or 25 or 30-ton vehicle rolling on it just like that. It is to reinforce your concrete, not to support the truck. So what you should be doing is when the truck, let's say the truck covers 28 feet or 25 feet, whatever it is, put that length of BRC down. Of course, it should be resting on your double baskets because the basket has what is called chairs at the side and chair support. So your BRC should be on the basket, not below the basket. The British reinforced concrete should be resting on top of the double baskets. That will elevate it off of the blinding. So you put that section down. When the trucks come, they pour that section. You lay another set down. When the truck comes up to that point, they pour that. Do not have trucks driving all the way up and down on your BRC. It is not supposed to be driven on by big heavy trucks. By anything, as a matter of fact. Again, this is free knowledge. Free. You don't have to pay me for this. Because we have to use our roads. Now, wherever there's what's called a double basket, those of you who have contracts should know what the baskets are. They've been made. Wherever those baskets are, it is for the deliberate, purposeful cracking of the concrete. Because remember, it's a 250 feet slab you have by 80. So it's a whole long slab of concrete that's going to crack. It has to crack. Inevitably, it will crack because of how heavy it is. It's this whole long slab, continuous slab of concrete. So what do? They create cracks in the concrete. That's why at every 12-foot section, they're supposed to cut this 3/8 of an inch wide. I saw people cutting it less than 1/4 of an inch. And it's supposed to be 2 inches deep. Why do you cut it? One day, if you cast the concrete today, the next day when it's fresh, you go back and you cut it. At those 12-feet sections, 2 inches deep, 3/8 wide. So when you put what's called backer rods inside, I'll show you what they are in another broadcast in the field. You sink the backer rod and 1/2 of an inch above to the surface of the road. So when you put your sealant inside now, as your vehicles drive over, it is not pulling the sealant out. As you saw all over the place, sealant and backer rods are being ripped out because people do not know what they're doing. So exactly the same. You're controlling where the concrete cracks. So over all this distance, every 12 feet, they're saying, okay, then we want the concrete to crack here. And where it cracks now, that's why you have a backer rod, something put down inside like foam material. And then you seal it. So with the freeze and thaw and the flexing of the concrete, we've controlled where it would crack. That is what you're supposed to know. So you cut it, and then it cracks. That's the plan. You put the backer rod in. 1 week later, you seal. Clean it and seal it. If you do not follow that basic procedure, what can happen is your road can crack in many other places. Beyond that, once the concrete is finished now, when you finish casting, you do not wait until you get to the end of the road, because remember, trucks have to take time, some may have to cross the bridge and all kinds of issues you may have. You don't sit down and wait and say, okay, let me just road finish, then we're going to spray the curing compound in it. You do not do that. Once you see the moisture is gone from the surface of the concrete and it's firm enough for you to handle it solidly, you begin. Once there's no moisture at the top, there's no film of water anymore, you begin to spray or cover it with the curing compound, because the curing compound is not to harden the concrete. It's not a hardener. It creates a waxy film over the concrete. So once you have this wax over the concrete, it delays moisture evaporating out of the concrete. It is so therefore, when you buy the curing compound, you cannot make it as thin as water and just throw it on the concrete. Say, okay, then I did my job. That's why the roads are cracking a lot, because the moisture in the concrete is evaporating too fast. And remember, at the bottom as well, you don't have any moisture retaining or moisture barrier in terms of plastic. If you have the dry concrete, which would be the blinding now. Let me show you this one more time and then I'll leave you. One more shot. Bear with me. Remember this? This red area here is the blinding, right? The red section here. That's the 2 inches of concrete. That's called a blinding put on the road. Now, when you're ready to do the final pouring of your concrete, this blinding is just concrete. It's just cement mixed with sand, nothing else. And it's on the surface that didn't have any moisture barrier beneath it. No plastic beneath it. So when you decide as a contractor, now okay, then you're ready to pour the road. You bring in the trucks and the truck begin to pour wet concrete now on top of this. You know what will happen? This area will inevitably absorb moisture from the concrete. It will absorb the moisture from the concrete that's on top of it. That is natural, because concrete comes wet with moisture in it. The moisture will be absorbed by the blinding, and then your concrete will begin to dry out faster. So if you have no plastic on the blinding, you have poor curing compound application at the top. You just decided to mix the compound as thin as ever and just throw it all across the concrete and think you did a good job. So the moisture begins to evaporate on a hot day very fast. You know what happened to your concrete? It's going to crack. Then you didn't cut the road in time. You didn't cut it to the prescribed 3/8 of an inch wide, 2 inches deep. Fix the backer rod at up to 1/2 inch must be exposed at the top in terms of the space left for the top face sealant to go in. You did none of that. Some of you wait for a whole week before you decide to cut the road. And then you put the backer rod and the sealant at the same time. What do you think will happen? Some people did not cut they did one pass with a 1/4 inch or less than, or maybe 1/16 blade. And they're done. And try to force backer rods in that, it wouldn't fit. And you cut it, I saw one cut it less than an inch deep. And forcing backer rods in, they didn't want to put sealant. All the sealant all over the road right now. All over. The roads are going to disintegrate. Then what you have in it will be powdering. When the concrete dries too fast, the surface will become like powder. So when you drive, you see all the stone will start being exposed. That is what's happening in our country. That's what's happening in our community, because people are not taking time to apply what is right. They should have been, or they should be, at least for me, I will do it. Plastic put on top of the blinding, all the way down into the verge, which would be, y'all call the toe, up to the side of the form board. So there'll be some degree of retention of moisture for the road when it's poured. Additionally, at the right time, you apply the curing compound. It's a wax, because wax would prevent moisture from evaporating rapidly. So your concrete has time to cure. People in Linden, please don't be driving on roads because you see the road is finished and you could walk on it. And 2 days later, you decide, well, you're tired waiting, so you just drive your car over it or drive a truck on it. You're going to crack the road. You're going to compromise the structure because so many things were at fault already. The contractor cannot be blamed for your being irresponsible. I thank you for your time. We'll meet again. I have to go about my day. Hopefully, companies will hear this, that sell you the ready-mix concrete, and they'll be at ease to know that somebody came forward to say they're not robbing you. You were just not accurately or adequately informed. Do well until we meet again.